Good day to you and welcome to Compass Finding Spirituality in the Everyday. I'm Ryan Dunn. In this episode, we're joined by Edith and Randy Woodley, who share their unique journey in integrating spirituality, environmental consciousness, and community living. They manage the Eloheh Indigenous Center for Earth Justice on their 10-acre farm. And in this conversation, we're going to talk about pursuing contentment over happiness as we explore ideas like sustainable land management, the interconnectedness of all living things, and serving the broader community of life. We'll hear about their farm's harmonious integration with nature, their advocacy for small-scale sustainable farming, and their own practical advice for connecting with the environment, even for urban dwellers. The Woodleys also discuss their book, which is called Journey to Eloheh, and they share their personal stories that highlight the deep spiritual lessons they have learned along the way. Join us as we explore the profound insights of Edith and Randy Woodley on creating a balanced, harmonious life in tune with the natural world. We're going to talk about life and living well, some kind of light existential topics with the Woodleys. So as we are talking about life, we're recording this on a Tuesday morning for y'all. What does life look like for the Woodleys today?
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure you really even want to know that.
You can give us the Instagram version if you so choose.
Yeah. So, I retired 2 years ago from teaching at the Portland Seminary, and I haven't been busier in my whole life since that time. So, we have our farm here. We have our schools. We speak at places all around the country and Canada. I'm writing books. Edith's finally writing a book. We just got our book done together. I'm already started a new one now, just getting the contract for that. And, we've got lots of things going on. I teach every now and then at the Center for Action and Contemplation down in Albuquerque. And then on top of that, family-wise, we've got currently 3 of our 4 grown kids living on the campus with us here. So that's and a grandson. So that makes life interesting, dealing with adult kids.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. Life's a little bit crazy around here.
Well, this morning it was fine. We're just kind of plugging right along. We got up, we had our coffee, we able to just do our thing that we do in the morning. And, just kind of get our day going, ate breakfast, and just kind of get moving with the day, doing laundry. We're getting ready to go to Albuquerque on Friday. And so, getting everything situated with, the house and with our kids and with our staff and, all those different things that you have to do before you leave home.
Yeah.
And making sure our critters are taken care of while we're gone. We have a dog and
4 cats.
4 outside cats that live outside, and then our daughter has 2 cats that are inside cats, and so yeah, it's just and chickens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just all those basic every morning things that a person does. So.
Basic life on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to name that part of your existence is living life on the farm, and in feeling that sense of connection with the life around something like that. You mentioned the books you're working on. The book that has brought us together is Journey to Eloheh. And a lot of times when many of us speak about life, we defer to a language around happiness where, I'll just be happy when blank happens, or I just want to be happy in life. In Journey to Eloheh, you talk about life in a pursuit of well-being or pursuit of wellness. Can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between happiness and well-being?
Yeah, and it's pronounced Eloheh.
Eloheh, thank you.
Yeah, Eloheh, it's a Cherokee word, basically meaning wholeness and well-being, and everything's kind of as it should be. It's not perfect, but there are remedies to sort of work things out. Yeah. So Eloheh is the name of our farm. We're Eloheh Indigenous Center for Earth Justice and Eloheh Farm and Seeds. And our organization is called Eloheh / Eagle's Wings. So that's our legal entity. It's kind of like, that the thinking like, oh, I'll just be happy when I win the lottery, right?
Right.
Well, real quick on that note, this morning I was sitting with my grandson.
You won the lottery. No.
And you still made time for this. What noble people.
This morning I was sitting with my grandson. He's got a head cold, and so he didn't go to school this morning. And so I was sitting with him. He's sitting at the table working on some Legos. And I'm eating my breakfast, and he's sitting there, and he just leans over and he goes, you know what? Money don't bring you happiness. I says, that's true. Money don't bring you happiness. He says, but family does, huh? And I said, yes, family. You bring me happiness. Your mom brings me happiness. All my family brings me happiness. And he goes, okay. And so, he just said it right there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, family brings me happiness, and the wholeness of my family. And even though they go through struggles every day, it's still, they're my children. We have 4 children, 6 grandkids, and they all bring me happiness. And I don't see how a person can't be happy if they have family.
Well, all families aren't like that.
No, that's true. All families aren't, but we're not put together either, right? We are far from being put together. We have a lot of ups and downs in our family, but overall, my family brings me happiness.
So we're situated here on 10 acres. Part of that we leave for the wildlife. We kind of have the middle section, and then we leave the top end and the bottom end, both for the animals to wander and sleep and do all the things that they do. They're part of the picture here too. They're part of the whole context. Right. The water that we distribute and use to grow plants, and then the plants themselves. And, it's sort of, and then we are part of a bigger family. We have a community that we are involved with. And so being happy is not just about what I get out of it. Being happy is how we struggle and live and come through and work through the larger context, right? With the whole community of creation, what I call the whole community of creation. And if we stick with it, right? If that works and we all work together, then my happiness actually becomes sort of a byproduct of that. But it's certainly not, the prime product. We're not just trying to get what we can for ourselves. Yeah. And I don't think human beings were made that way. I think, if we want to look at the Genesis stories in the beginning is a really good example of this perfect harmony and balance, and this whole idea of, the balance between, the sun and the moon and the wind and the waters and the animals and the flying things and all of those. And then human beings are created to basically be caretakers of all of that. And we're the sort of most qualified for it. We've got these, fingers and thumbs and the brain to do that. And so the first command is tend the garden, to toil the soil, to take care of the garden. And I look at the garden as the whole community of creation. So the first command wasn't make yourself happy. The first command was like, you're in this whole community of creation. Now serve it, right? Find out, what it needs, bring the balance back, bring the harmony back when it goes out. And if you want to look at it, this, the eating from the tree that we have, this we've mythologized so much is really a misuse of our role as human beings. It's a misuse of the land. There are certain ways that we're supposed to take care of the land and something we're not supposed to do. And so that's a lesson for me. And so it doesn't matter if like I'm actually tending the soil and taking care of all the little critters underneath and all the ones above, and not trying to take everything for myself, but leaving for them as well. Or if I'm working on the problem of human trafficking or missing and murdered Indigenous women, or making wells for people who need water, or whatever it is, when I'm serving the whole community of creation in whatever aspect I'm called to do that, then I'm fulfilling my purpose as a human being. That's what I was made to do. And that's really more what well-being is.
Was there a point in each of your lives respectively where you had almost an aha realization that life was more than the pursuit of happiness, but life was more of the circular encouragement of a sense of well-being, not just for yourselves, but for the creation or for the world?
I'm kind of an old guy, so I'm a boomer, right? And so, but it was during our days, when as a young person in junior high and high school, that the whole environmental movement started. The Earth Day started, and I think it was 1969 or 70, something like that. And that's when I began to really be aware that there's something going wrong here, and so I've been concerned about that ever since. And that was the old hippie days, right? So everybody were earthies back then. Everybody was like, I grew up in a community that had a lot of hippies. I was right next to Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is sort of like the hippie capital of the Midwest. And so everybody was talking about it, like the ozone layer and how to not pollute and all those kinds of things. And so, but I think even before that, I was at the only time I ever went to a church camp, and there was a full-blood native guy that was Ojibwe guy who was sort of taking me under his wing, and he was talking about those kinds of things and showing me like, here's how you harvest sassafras root and to say a prayer and those kinds of things. And so, I guess it, and actually, I'm kind of working my way back. My mother was very much what I would call an environmentalist before anyone ever knew what the word was, I think. She's very close to creation, the birds and the animals and the plants, and greenest thumb of anyone I've ever known, both indoor and outdoor plants. And we grew up with a giant garden. And so I think probably just through osmosis, watching her talk to plants and animals and birds and things was from as a kid, that was sort of like clued me in that there was something more than myself going on. How about you?
Let's see. My aha moment came when later in life. It happened when I was outside with our oldest grandson. He was just maybe 2 years old. And I was picking, we have on our farm, we had some berry bushes, and I was out there picking some with him. And a story came to my mind. And in that story is a story that my brother told me when I was a kid. And within that story is where we were out picking berries, and my brother said, stop. And he said, you got to leave the top for the winged animals and the bigger animals, and the bottom for all the smaller animals, so that they have another day to live. And we pick in the middle. And then there's a bunch of bushes here, so we can go on and we still get what we want, but we're also leaving stuff for the animals, all the animals, the bugs, birds, etc. And so it was like, okay, that's my brother. Okay, yeah, whatever. He's always saying stuff like this. It was like, okay, we'll do what you said. And then, yeah, I was doing all this stuff already, doing gardens with Randy and all this kind of stuff. But And yeah, I knew there was something going on with the earth, and I knew the weather's, starting to change, and it's not for the good. There's more hurricanes, more tornadoes, more earth, all these different things are happening, and the summers are getting hotter, the winters are getting weird also. So, but I just didn't really think much about it until that moment when my brother told me that story. It hit me as I was picking berries with my grandson.
I noticed that when talking about the farm, you say you live on the middle of it, and you leave the top and the bottom. Is that where that terminology comes from? Out of that story?
Well, I think that happened naturally.
Yeah.
It was just the way the farm was laid out.
But
it wasn't a farm. It hadn't been a farm for 35 years. This is our third farm. We've started from scratch. We're kind of experts at starting farms now. And I'm not talking about running them, just starting them.
starting.
And so, but it kind of, the way the land is laid out is that there's a hardwoods and a big plum thicket up on the top end,
part, yeah.
and then a sort of a scrub forest, if you will, down on the bottom, probably, I don't know, 2 acres on each side maybe. And then we sort of had the
middle part.
The 6 acres, 4 or 5, 6 acres in the middle. And it's not exactly laid out that way. But then we've also created a sort of a walkway probably about 20, 30 yards wide, section next to the road where we fenced it off and put brush up against it. And so the animals who want can kind of walk up and down the property without having to, worry about seeing humans. But like the deer now, they just kind of walk all over.
They just walk everywhere. But
yeah, but that's just kind of how it happened. But you brought that up. It's interesting that it kind of goes with her story, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of does.
Pick from the middle.
But it's just something that, it just hit us. It just hit me at that point in my life. And that's when it was, as you were saying, that kind of little aha moment. And from that point on, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
I started looking at creation in a whole different way. And I started looking at the animals and the plants and the trees and even the bugs and the spiders and, all these things that, I didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
creepy crawly things. But they're all a part of creation.
Yeah.
And so it's like they all have this role to play.
Yeah. We've all been taught, we've been taught over the years from our elders how to respect life in general, even the spiders. When you see a spider in your house, grab a Kleenex and take it out and tell it not to come back in the house. You're welcome, but not inside the house, kind of a thing. And so, and we talk to, the hawks when, don't eat our chickens. We need the chickens, we need those eggs. You can eat all the mice you want, but, not the chickens. And so, it's just, we realize that we're part of we're just a part of this whole thing. It doesn't belong to us. We're not the central feature of it all, but we are a part of it all. And so when we go to a place like this, our land, and we just sort of look and we say, how do we sort of bend it to our needs without breaking it from its other purposes, without robbing from, all the other creatures that share this land. Yeah. And, it's just amazing what the rewards that you have by seeing the different birds, eagles and hawks and woodpeckers and songbirds and hummingbirds and, deer and elk and all the rest that come around just to enjoy.
Not only that, but, we're seeing, when we moved onto this property, we're seeing nature, like plants and flowers, the original, what do you call it? Native plants coming back onto the property because, we've cleared areas and
from
just kind of from invasive plants or just totally unwanted weeds and stuff like this, you know. We cleaned them all up and everything. And then all of a sudden, the next spring, boom, we're getting these beautiful native plants are coming back. And it's just like, you know, this is all of creation. And, you know, we're just caretakers of it. We don't lord over it. We don't, you know, make it do what we want it to do. We let it be the way the creator made it. So
there's a sense of relationship in that. And in fact, the 10 values that you lay out in the book, a lot of them center on being mindful about our relationships to different things. Has there been some ways that running the farm or farms has impacted your relationships with people, especially in terms of building community or being part of community?
Yeah, I think it's the hardest task has been to integrate people from the city to sort of like understand, like, for example, when we have our ceremonies out here, that they're so related to the land that we're on, right? Rather than just being some sort of out of context thing. And so some people kind of get that. Like when we have our schools, for example, we have these 4-day schools, and people connect with the land and each other, and they understand the whole atmosphere of respect and reciprocity in our relationship to, you know, and this land being our relative. And but it takes a while sometimes for Western thinkers to sort of allow themselves to let that happen. To when we first sort of started moving this direction, you know, we said, you know, people say, well, what are you doing? And we're like, well, we're giving people permission to love the earth again, because we're all made to do that. We're all made to learn from and love this land that we've been put on by Creator, and wherever that land is. And so to learn how to take care of it's really important, and to learn how to understand it as your relative is really important. So I think that's the biggest sort of contrast and the biggest challenge. But for us, for me personally, I don't really see people as much as individuals anymore. I see them as people who are in a context, a wider context, and I always wonder what that context is and how it affects them. Yeah.
I want to talk about, you brought up the word individual, and a part that pricked me or stood out to me in what you wrote was in paying attention to increasing friendships and family. And within that, you have a subsection about rejecting individualism, which is pretty countercultural in the context in which we exist. Can you share what it looks like a little bit to reject or healthily reject individualism?
For me, it's like individualism is, you just say, you take the farm, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to make it the most beautiful, productive looking farm. So I am going to bring in and I'm going to clean it all up. I'm going to get rid of all these invasive plants. I'm going to, you know, spray stuff on it and kill all the weeds. And I'm going to make it very pristine.
Spray fertilizer.
And I'm going to make it so that everything grows the way I want it to grow. And then when I look at it as a group, collaborative, whatever, you know, bringing other people in, we're not just bringing other people in to our space. We're inviting them to be a part, not to look at the space and go, oh, look how beautiful I made this. No, it's like, oh, look what we as a group can do to make this a beautiful place and not pristine, because we're not just doing it for, you know, humans, we're doing it for the animals around us and the birds and the bugs and stuff like this.
So let me give an example of what she's talking about. So So people take their weeds out every year after the flowers bloom, right? Well, there are lots of bugs, good, helpful bugs that make their winter homes in those stalks of those flowers and other things. The roots in the ground start to deteriorate and go back, compost back into the ground and create a richness for the soil, which creates more beneficial bacteria underneath. But you look at it and you go, oh, there's a bunch of weeds all over this place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line is, no, we're concerned about everything, not just how we look or how for ourselves. Also, we don't really burn brush piles around here too much. We create these brush piles and set them to one side, and so that the quail and the rabbits and the squirrels and the mice have a place to go. And so, yeah, and so the farm doesn't look like when you see the pictures of, the couple with the pitchfork and the farm in the back and the red barn. And all. But I think if we were individuals, very individualistic about it, then that's what we'd be concerned with. But so we're probably the most individualistic country that's ever lived in the history of the world, right? We are just totally people about ourselves. Everybody's living, 2.2 children and with their garage in the suburbs, and and we've spent so much money trying to create this nuclear family, and and I think it actually created a sort of a schizophrenia, a social schizophrenia. Everybody trying to get to work and back, and rush and beep your horns and just
get your kids to sports or dance recitals, and
And it's like everybody's got to have their own individual thing going on, and just not. I don't want to be driven that way, I mean, yeah, it feels good when I get something for myself. I'm not saying that doesn't feel good, but that's not a very sustainable future when I just think about myself. It's when I think about everything else in context when I begin to go, oh, we may have a future after all.
And so it's not just a rejection of self, but it is a sense of participation in something larger than one person.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, happiness, like I said, is a byproduct of the big picture, not the prime product we strive for.
And as we have schools and other people come on the property, we tell them about all these things, and we're inviting them to be a part of what we're doing. Not to look at it as this pristine place, but as a part of this. It may look chaotic. It may look it may look chaotic, or it may look, not very well trimmed up and stuff like this, but it doesn't need to be that way. And people need to understand that when you come together like this, it's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be not, pretty, and sometimes, but, as long as that togetherness is there and we're thinking together about the whole body of creation, then you kind of get out of that individualism.
Yeah. And think about that sort of in a metaphor, if you will, for people. We're messy, right? Our lives are all messy and everything. But if we stick together, in community together, it may not be pretty as like the outside appearance when we first met,
right.
But it's more real, and something of more value comes out of it.
When you have groups come out to work at the farm, are there certain activities that seem to awaken in them a sense of participation in the whole community and that rejection of individualism?
Yeah, and we don't just have work groups; we also have schools. So, but even in the schools, we have them work an hour just so they kind of get their hands in the dirt, right? So, yeah, I think there's talk about what you do with the schools. That's a good example, probably.
So what I do is I give them, I talk. We on the day that I do a lot of teaching is I have them sit around. I tell them my story, tell them about how I view creation. And then they go out, they get their hands dirty, and they get a sense of actually understanding what it's like to work a farm, work the land, and being not just that, but being a part of it, right? Helping the plants have more space to grow within their beds of growing, like getting rid of all those little unwanted weeds and stuff, or whatever else needs to be done. And so they get that hour with their hands doing the actual work. And then there's a break, and then so on. And then later in the afternoon, I tell them that they're going to go and they're going to sit on the land anywhere on the property that they want. They can just go, they sit, they have to leave everything behind. They can't take any bags, they can't take their phones, or nothing. Pencil, paper, nothing. They just go and sit and experience creation in its wonders. Listen to the wind. Listen to the bugs that fly around you or that are crawling, the ants, and sit quietly. Calm your mind. Take deep breaths. And you've heard of that term, forest bathing, right? And that's what I have them do. I just have them go out. Do whatever you need to do, but just go out, empty your mind, and just experience creation in its whole. And see what the Creator speaks to you. And it may not be, oh, here, this is what I want you to learn. No, it's going to be in a form of a butterfly, or it's going to be in a form of an ant, or even a spider. And so then they come back, and then I have them share. And the first time I did this, they were very reluctant to share. And there's this one guy, he first time he's like, yeah, well, he was very skeptical about it. But he's the leader of this one group that comes twice a year, that brings a group here. And but over the past several years that he has been coming, and he's been participating in that every time, he has changed. He is like, this is beautiful. He's learning from all of this of creation, and just being able to sit quietly and listen to what the Creator is speaking to him about. And so it's really amazing to see how people who live in the cities or in bigger towns and stuff like this, and don't really get out into nature, and what they come back and experience. And they're just like, this is just beautiful.
Yeah. And if we think about our own happiness, Creator actually did some remarkable things that most people don't know about. But when you get your hands in the soil, there's something that releases hormones in us that make us feel good. And it's the same thing with being out in the forest. The forest actually release some sort of endorphin producing chemical that makes us feel better from being out there. And so we're actually made to be doing these kinds of things.
Are there some ways that you can think of where maybe somebody's in an environment where they can't on a daily basis jump into a completely natural surrounding, where they're able to fully immerse in forest bathing on a daily basis? Are there other ways that they can begin to practice the harmony way or embody some of those values?
I have told people on several occasions that, someone would say, well, I live in apartments, and I live in the middle of a big city, and, how do I do it? I said, well, you have parks around you. And even if they're not accessible to you, sometimes just opening up your windows sometimes and getting some fresh air, letting that sun hit you, and try to quiet your mind through all that. Sometimes you can do that also. And, you'll see a fly come flying into your window, or, an ant or something on your windowsill or something. And that's a part of creation. Yes, you're in the city, but, I said, I've told people to look for creation no matter where you live.
Yeah, you're part of an ecological environment. No matter where you are, you look around you. There's going to be birds. There's going to be other kinds of maybe rodents or whatever else. But there's an environment where you're at, and you're a part of it. So the question is really like, how do I actually make it more beneficial for all of us?
Right.
So, but I've also told people, hey, if nothing else, grow a tomato plant on your backyard, in your back porch or whatever, patio
or like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a part of making something come to life and help nourish it, and it nourishes you too. And so now there's a relationship, right? Then you save the seeds from that and you pass them on to your neighbor, and you have them do it, and now you've got a community of people growing tomatoes or whatever it is, Yeah. So we shouldn't let the fact that all people don't live in, have 10 acres out in the country like us, stop us from enjoying creation.
There's always ways to find creation if you really want to find it, because it's everywhere.
That is good. Farming is communal work, and certainly you're inviting more people into the practice and the awareness. Where are some spaces where people can, in a sense, visit what you're doing or find out some more information?
Yeah. Well, we're Eloheh.org. Eloheh is spelled Eloheh. Eloheh. And Eloheh.org is our website. And we have actually volunteer signups there. And people can reach us through email. The ElohehSeeds.com, that's seeds plural. Eloheh seeds.com. You can order our seeds. We grow open pollinated seeds plants are loved, and none of them are GMO or genetically altered, or almost all of them are heirloom breeds, and a lot of them are Native American heirloom breeds. And so, yeah, you can find out more about our farm there too. And then people who aren't near us, there's something called WOOF, Worldwide Organization of Organic Farming, I think it's called, something like that.
WOOF F farming.
And WOOF USA. And anybody can go volunteer on a farm. If you don't have one around you, look up WOOF and become a WOOF volunteer. And even if it's just for a day somewhere, a lot of farmers need help. So, and now the other thing is that, farming is, there's farming and there's industrial farming. And you don't even have to be a large place. You can be a small place like ours and still be an industrial farmer. That means you're using chemicals. That means you're not concerned about the rest of the community of creation. That's kind of farming we don't need more of. Don't volunteer for those places. But find people who are doing organic practices, small farms. The United Nations did a study that says we no longer need industrial farms, that small farms can actually save the world and feed the world. They produce more nutrient-rich packed foods. They produce less chemicals and less destruction to the overall community creation. They employ more people, et cetera, et cetera. So if we all would put our lobbying efforts and our energy into small farms, we could feed the whole world.
And healthy, non-depleted soil is a great carbon capture as well. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, Woodleys, thank you so much for joining us on the Compass podcast.
Thanks, Ryan.
Look forward to touching base more with you in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You take care.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Well, blessings to you on your own journey to Eloheh. and towards contentment. Do you want more Compass? Well, check out another episode 125 with Abigail Broca about everyday spirituality is going to be a good one. So is episode 93 about experiencing God in nature with Victoria Lours. While you're listening, leave a rating and or review. The Compass podcast is brought to you by United Methodist Communications. You can check out all of our episodes and get show notes and relevant links at umc.org/compass. And that's all for this week. We'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks' time, so I'll chat at you then. Peace.